I find this helpful to use as a part of my business with people, just working with
Yeah.
people to really understand who they are and what they're here to do. I think that's something unique about me as a person in the publicity, entertainment management, brand
Yeah.
strategy world.
Are you going through life blind? This is Eyes Wide Open with Nick Thompson. On this podcast, we share knowledge and stories that build human connection while elevating stigmatized societal issues such as mental health, holistic wellness, culture, free speech, and more, all to ensure we show up in the world with our eyes wide open. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Eyes Wide Open. This is a bonus second show for the launch of season 2 of this show. And I'm not going to lie, this episode's a little self-indulgent. Today, I'm going to have Sara Fruman on the show, and she is an astrologer, publicist, coach, brand strategist, and so much more. We recently got connected and have become friends. In fact, we have a business relationship now as well. But during our discussion, she was explaining to me some of the things that she's seen in my astrological birth chart. And I thought to myself, okay, I actually want to deep dive into this. And I thought it might be fun to just record this and have this as a bonus episode, because why not? Astrological birth charts are fun. We'll dive in and see why I'm me and all of these things that have happened that could be contributing to these specific seasons in my life. So I hope you enjoy this episode. It's going to be a little bit more fun, a little less serious, but it's going to be good for all of us. And I hope you enjoy our conversation with Sara Fruman. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of Eyes Wide Open with Nick Thompson. We have a great guest, Sara Fruman, today. She's a brand strategist, entertainment manager, and astrologer. And today, we're going to do a special episode where she gives me my reading. So thank you for coming on the show, Sara. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm doing just fine. I don't know if I'm excited or nervous, maybe cautiously optimistic. Some of the things you've teased to me. So
I don't think there's any reason to be nervous. I think it just kind of explains some of the challenges that you've had over the past, few years. But
yeah. Okay. Well, I'm here for it. So let's do it. First, before we do that though, a little background. How did you become an astrologer? What was your process?
Yeah, so I just honestly was always very interested in learning about myself and learning about other people. Like, for instance, my best friend loves going out all the time, and I was like, why do I never feel like going out? And things like that. So I started to want to learn it, and I eventually started taking courses, and I just became completely obsessed. So over really the past 10 years, but more strongly than the last 5 years, I study it pretty much every day. So yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. What are we going to do today? You can probably explain it better than me. And to everyone listening, I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and it just has never presented as it did here. So I'm super excited to get a reading.
Yeah, I am as well. Sometimes, you're obviously very open-minded and into personal development. Men sometimes get weirder about astrology than women for whatever reason.
That's
true. Yeah, it is true. But we're going to go into your birth chart and kind of what's happening right now as far as how your chart's moved and what you've been experiencing just in your day-to-day life, and what you will be experiencing soon. Yeah, well, we're actually in really good timing now too, because it's almost your birthday, and it's kind of nice to do these things around your birthdays, because there's certain things you can see for the year ahead. So yeah, that's pretty exciting as well.
I'm exciting. Let's get to it.
And for anyone listening, Mercury is currently retrograde, so if something breaks, you can blame it on that, which screws up the communication and technology, and scheduling and things like that.
I've been saying that Mercury needs to calm down. It is mean and making life very hard.
I know. Well, you're a Taurus, and it's been in Taurus, so that's not necessarily helpful, but we're almost done. And we have 3 to 4 of them every year, so it's not something that we have to fear or anything. Yeah, but just kind of getting started. So you're a Taurus. Do you know what being a Taurus means? Do you know like the general
I do,
indication?
but I think sharing some of that might be good for those that don't.
Okay. So Tauruses, so your sun sign is kind of like your ego and kind of the core of who you are, and your soul's kind of your sun sign. So in Taurus, it's fixed spring energy, so it's the middle of spring. So it's very practical. It's kind of slow moving. Like if you see like, April showers bring May flowers. Like these are all gradual processes. So like a Taurus is like loves stability, doesn't want things changing a lot. It tends to love like, their home environment. They love comfort. They love food. Love things like gardening. At times, it's very sensory. It's a Venus ruled
Mm.
sign, so it's very like day to day senses that you can enjoy as kind of like the embodiment of that. So I would say for you as a Taurus, you're someone that would probably love a routine, love things being stable.
All true.
Probably did not enjoy, getting your schedule and life kind of messed around with as far as, going on the show and everything else. It would probably be a harder adjustment for you versus someone else.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because one of the things that I learned like through therapy and just my life and reflecting on it, that I need structure. Like I need to have specific things that need to get done in a day. Whether it's working out or whatever, or otherwise I'm totally thrown off and I'm out of my element. And I'm a little bit of a homebody too, even though I like to get out sometimes. So that's very true. I'm also very stubborn,
Oh yeah, yeah. I was
which
gonna say you have a lot of stubborn energy in your chart in general, and it's the Taurus. It's also you have a lot of it's what you call fixed energy, so it's the middle of the season energy.
mm,
So you also have Jupiter and Aquarius. You have fixed angles. So what that means is you're just basically like a person who is stubborn, loves stability in general, doesn't love a lot of change, doesn't love, things getting messed around with too much, and all of that. And that also translates into relationships for you as well. But we'll kind of go into that. But yeah, so you're a Taurus sun. The next thing I would kind of look for is your rising sign is Scorpio, which is kind of how you come across to other people. But within that as well, I like to look for the chart ruler. So each sign has a ruler. So the ruler of Scorpio traditionally is Mars, which is in your eighth house.
mm, okay.
So you're a Mars ruled person. And what that kind of says to me with, well, just in general for the world, we had a ridiculously long Mars and Gemini transit. From typically Mars is in a sign for 6 weeks, and because of signs retrograde and things like that with Mercury, it's very quick. But Mars ended up being in Gemini for 8 months. So, and having that in your eighth is like, I would expect things coming up around, say, money, but not only just money, it just like a mentally more difficult placement. And like Mars and Gemini in general is very fast moving, and it's very in your head. So I even noticed while we were experiencing that energy for a while, there was just so much mental stimulation, and having it, be in your eighth house, I would think that it's bringing up stuff around money. It's bringing up just like it's just more psychologically difficult of a period than you probably would have enjoyed. That's over now. It's been in Cancer, but it was there from August until like end of March. So that's a very long
Oh,
time to be in a
wow.
specific place. Yeah.
It's just more you're like in your head about stuff. Is that kind of the takeaway there?
It's very mental, a lot of mental stimulation for you naturally as a person, probably more than the average person, like always thinking. And also, it's not like even. It's interesting because like the eighth house is kind of a deeper house, but Gemini is like very quick moving. So it's like, I don't know, probably overthinking everything is what I would guess with having that. But also having,
Yep.
yeah.
Sounds about
Also,
right since August.
yeah, it was not, I like did not enjoy it at all either. And I like don't even have it prominent in my chart. So I don't know. It's been in Cancer, which Mars in Cancer isn't my favorite placement, but it's been nicer, I've found, since like the last couple months, but it's almost into Leo already. It usually moves like 6 weeks is no big deal.
Right.
8 months is a big deal, but
And how did that happen, or why did that happen?
so basically, so there's 30 degrees in every sign, and it went almost all the way through Gemini, and then it stationed retrograde, and Mars moves retrograde every 2 years. And just the way it worked out, since it was almost all the way through the sign, it had to go all the way back, and it basically stops when it stations. So it was just a way longer
Okay.
cycle than it normally would be. It's just the way it worked out this year. It won't happen like that again. I think in our lifetimes it will happen again, but
Okay.
yeah,
Interesting.
it's kind of like a once in a lifetime
So it just
thing.
created this like 8-month period of sucky stuff.
Yeah, it was not ideal, I found. And Mars too, you have a day chart. So Mars tends to be worse for people with day charts. Saturn tends to be worse for people
Oh,
with night charts. And that's dependent on like if the sun is still up or down. So you were born pretty close to like not far from sunset, but it was still before sunset because you're born in May. You're It would be different if it was in January. So that's kind of how we do that in astrology. Um, yeah. But other things interesting here, like Scorpio rising, and literally everyone I've been talking to lately is a Scorpio rising. It's weird, but Scorpio risings tend to be a little bit more hidden, and it's like funny. You went on reality TV, like that. Scorpio risings like typically don't want everyone to know everything about themselves. Like they
oh
like
my
to keep things
gosh, that
closer.
is so true. And you know what's so funny to me is I literally like always wanted to write and always wanted my ideas to be out there. And then the idea that I got famous literally for myself and my relationship on real and exposing that on reality TV, I don't even know like why I never thought that part of it through. And because I don't like I am a private person. And I remember I would say that in my interviews when they would ask me questions, like I'm not going to talk about that. That's too private. And they're like,
Right.
Nick, you're not a private person anymore. And that was what they kept telling me whenever I would say that. But that's very accurate.
Oh yeah, and like you are like a naturally every Scorpio. There's a joke with astrologers that like everyone will give you their birth information unless they're Scorpio rising, so they like don't want you to know. Uh, so it's like it's a real thing, and I know other people that are so hidden that are Scorpio risings. But in other and that's just kind of how you come across. Like it's a bit more guarded, keeping things closer to the chest. And I feel like this is kind of how you naturally are too, because you have the South
Mm,
Node in that house, which means that it's kind of like the energy you came in with. Some people think it's like past life and things like that. But
yeah.
yeah, but also really interesting on here is that you have the ascendant and Pluto on the same degree. And there's 30 degrees per sign. The ascendant moves really quickly. It goes around everything every day. So having it at the exact degree of Pluto is pretty strong there. And so there's this just natural intensity about you. And it's not like
People
a,
describe me. People that know me describe me as intense. Yeah.
yeah. And it's like learning to work with it, you could be very powerful too. Like it's not a bad thing. It's you know Pluto Pluto like is kind of could be cutting energy as far as like really digging deep, and like there's a lot of good things you could do with that. It's again like become a therapist. That's not a bad placement as far as like being able to go there with people too.
Mm-hmm.
um but and you also have Saturn in that house too. The first house is like your body and yourself. So it's there is like, and it's opposite your sun, which there is like, you do kind of hold yourself back, or you felt like you've been like held back by things within your life, which is kind
Totally.
of, yeah, which is interesting too, which is something I feel like you could break free of with practice, but it's still like
Mm-hmm.
kind of that natural energy you came in with. And also, what's your father like? What's your relationship with your father? I like don't remember from the show at all.
Oh, he wasn't he wasn't going to be on reality TV. So it's interesting because like we don't have it, it's not like we have issues, but we don't talk all the time, and I can't visit my family too much, or it's too chaotic ironically. And so like it's a fine relationship, but it's not like we're super close or spend an excessive amount of time together.
Yeah, because it kind of looks like in your chart, like the sun represents your father too. Like having it opposite Saturn is like not the easiest placement. So I would think that, either he was strict, or there's just, it's definitely harder energy to be close to in your case, I guess.
Yeah, I would say strict is a is a is kind of true. Definitely would be quick to anger, I would say, when
Yeah,
you when the strictness wasn't working, I guess would be the way to do it. And I grew up Catholic,
that
so
makes
there's a
sense too.
yeah, there's like a natural strictness to how you're supposed to live your life.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've known a lot of Catholic people as well, but yeah, and it squares Jupiter. It just does not seem like the easiest relationship in your life, for sure. So that was something I was definitely wondering about.
Interesting.
What else here? So you have the moon in Pisces, which I know we were kind of talking about that, as well in the fifth house. So Pisces moon people tend to be extremely self-sacrificing,
Mm.
um, also very empathetic, and sometimes like Pisces moons cannot tell what energy is theirs versus someone else in time, so they end up taking on everyone's energy and have to work to create boundaries.
I was just on a walk with my friend yesterday, and she was just telling me about some of the stuff going on within her friend group and her family, and we were just talking about like the empathy and how I do like if I'm in a room full of people, like I feel like it can overtake me, and sometimes I really don't know what I'm feeling versus what I'm taking on. So it's so interesting to hear that.
Oh yeah, yeah, that totally makes sense. My mom has a Pisces moon as well, and she's very much like that. And we had a neighbor growing up who died of um, a car accident at 20,
Hmm.
and this was right after September 11th, and we were close to New York City, and there's a lot of that energy. And she, would drive home and start feeling all that energy just
Oh
from
yeah.
it being next door, and then had to go on antidepressants because it was like way too strong. And I think that's common for Pisces moons. Go ahead.
To your point too, like it is about boundaries. And I talk on social media and podcasts a lot about boundaries, because boundaries are probably the number one thing that helped me like feel like I took control of my life. And I because I'm empathetic, because I listen to people, and I want to help people and support people, I do attract a lot of people that need a lot of help and support. And I remember like there would be days where it'd be like I didn't give myself any space today. I just was listening to other people, taking on, their feelings. And that's when I, was finally like, okay, there's certain people I have to keep like an arm distance away, or spend limited amount of time with, because otherwise they just become my energy.
Oh yeah, that totally makes sense for you. And I feel like you do have a lot of that really like empathetic, sensitive, caring energy in your chart. So learning those boundaries and having which I didn't even go into yet, having the sun in the seventh house. So the first house is you, the seventh house is other people.
Okay.
So having that in the seventh house is could be a little bit more codependent at times of needing to put out those boundaries.
Mm,
And there is more of that focus on other people. And
okay.
yeah, and I did find that to be interesting as far as also like having the north node here. The south node is what you came in with, the north node's what you're going toward.
Okay.
This is your like relationship line too. So I just found it so interesting going on a reality show about basically getting married, when there is this like purpose related to relationships in your life, and it's both
Yeah.
from a romantic sense but also, you know, business sense. It could be also great one-on-one working with people, again, in the mental health professions. But I
Hmm.
mean, there is like a desire for you to, I feel like, get married or like find that partner. um
I've always like wanted to get married and have a family. It was like one of the most sought after dreams, goals, whatever that I've had since I was a kid.
yeah, it makes sense to me. And also like, so your moon's in your fifth house, that's in your seventh house, and your moon is in your fifth house of children and creativity as well. So you have a lot of really creative placements. Like you have Neptune in the third, which is more like
Mm.
writing and communication.
I've been
And
writing my whole life. I
yeah, and I bet you're like
work.
really creative about
Yeah.
it too, like not only on the business side of writing.
I used to write screenplays, stories,
Oh,
ever
makes
since I was a
sense.
kid. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. And I actually, so I think that I could definitely see you being a really good father too, with that moon in Pisces in the fifth house. Like that's kind of an ideal placement for, you know, a dad or, a mom too, if they have that in their chart. But there is like, you know, I have certain friends that are like trying to convince themselves to be parents right now since our biological clocks are ticking, but they like really don't want to do it. But I feel like for you, it would be a lot more natural.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've definitely always, again, wanted like a family. I used to say, I want Sunday mornings, which are a couple kids running around, dog, eating breakfast together with the family, all of that. It's like, that's like how I envisioned things going for me.
Yeah. And I think you'll get there. I think you just had a few, you know, few things that happened in between
Hiccups.
getting there. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Uh, which also, you know, makes sense, which I'll explain to you kind of what has been happening soon. But also with the family stuff, you have Jupiter in the fourth house, which is of like home and family. So I
Okay.
do see you like, and it's an Aquarius. So what that tells me is that you can have like, you know, an expansive home life and get that family and get rooted somewhere. But I think you're going to do it in kind of more of a unconventional way, or a way that's not exactly the way that you grew up. So it's going to be different in some way.
Do you mean the way I grew up, like my family dynamics?
Yeah, like I feel like
Okay.
it's going to be different from that, or it's going to be different from what I guess you grew up with.
And that, yeah, I mean, grew up with, in a divorced family, and it was very much like a guiding factor for me in that Sunday morning scenario I just shared with you. Was I wanted that, and I want to have that because I've never had that.
Yeah, oh, that totally makes sense too. And I really think you'll get there. It's
Thank
it's just
you
a
for the
matter of,
encouragement. Doesn't feel like it right now.
yeah, well, it might not be this year, but it doesn't mean that it won't be ever. Other things that I found noteworthy as far as your birth chart, you do definitely have fluctuations as far as your finances are concerned, and they could be pretty major, as far as like personal finances and extreme. I think it also, it's interesting in astrology, like your second house has to do with personal finances, but it also has to do with self-worth. And
Mm.
by the way, if anyone knows astrology, I'm seeing the Uranus opposing Mars here, and then it's squaring Jupiter. So that pretty perfectly explains what I'm saying if you know astrology. But yeah, but I also think that within that, you probably have fluctuations in your self-worth as far as like feeling good about yourself versus not, and having kind of extremes there as well.
Definitely true. Peaks and valleys. A lot of
Yeah.
valleys lately.
Yeah, well, and it makes sense. And I feel like things are going to get easier. I think even within the next few months for you. It's just there is a lot of changes going on for you
Yeah.
right now and have been happening for you. When did you film Love Is Blind
It
again?
was April, May, and June of 2021.
Oh, and yeah, that's interesting timing. Okay.
How
Uh,
come?
okay, so I'll look at kind of like what's been happening a bit for you here. So,
Okay.
and this is my astrology software. Basically, this
I
has
actually
been
was going to ask you about that. I'm like, did you draw this? Is there like an
no, yeah,
automation?
no.
Okay.
Yeah, it'd be a lot harder if like people used to have to do this all by hand, and
Yeah.
then you really had to be like skillful. But 'cause this is all mathematical,
Mhm.
so it would take forever for me to do all of this if I was doing it myself. But yeah, so basically the middle ring kind of shows how your charts progress since you were born. You still have your birth chart, but it's like your inner world can change throughout times, and there are themes. And the outer ring is basically what's happening right now in the sky. So when we looked at astrology, we take into account always your birth chart first, but also how things have moved and what's happening now to make interpretations um, and predictions. So a couple things that are interesting with what I noticed about what was happening here, and that's kind of why I wanted to know when you filmed it, is about 2.5 years ago or so, you really started this like new phase of life. So it's in 28-year cycles, and this
Okay.
has to do with the relationship to the sun and the moon in your progress chart. Um, and it's basically moved, it moves like the moon moves every 28 days or so. There's a new moon cycle. It's in months when it comes to the progressed moon, and the progressed sun moves 1 degree per year. So it's all
Hmm.
these calculations that we're doing for people that are skeptical of astrology. There is like a lot to it. But basically, you closed out about 2.5 years ago this 28-year cycle, and really like started this new phase of life. So
So, what
um,
was the phase of life I left behind in that 28-year cycle?
it was just like it's basically just a chapter closing. So it's not anything
Okay.
specific. Like you might have been lower energy the couple years before that ended. I don't know how you were doing then, but
Do you know it's so funny because now that I'm thinking, I got the first message from Love Is Blind in November of 2020, which is 2.5 years ago.
oh, that's crazy. Yeah, it's like
I just got goosebumps.
yeah, that is crazy. I did too. Because it's like, okay, Nick, you're finished basically with this part of your life, and you're starting this other part of life. And the first few years after something starts that's new, it's kind of like getting your like trying to figure things out. Like, all right, like things are going in kind of a different direction, and now you're
Yeah.
able to build something new.
That's so weird.
But it takes, you've already done, I feel like the first few years after is like more of the new energy, and you're kind of almost past that now of being able to like you figured out who you are, what you're doing in a sense in this next phase. But interestingly, also here the progressed sun moves 1 degree per year, and yours is and it goes up to 30 degrees. So you're at 29, 31 right now, which means that your progressed sun is changing signs as well, um, which, hasn't happened in your life for 30 years. So it's a big
Oh
deal
my
because
God.
the last time you were
So,
a child.
yeah, what does that mean?
So
or
the
what can
progressed
that mean?
sun kind of gives a different, like you're still a Taurus, but it gives a different
Mm-hmm.
flavor to kind of like your life and kind of where you're, you know, what you're focused on and your priorities are. So it's been in Gemini. So it's been like more quick moving. It's different from Taurus energy. It's been more,
Okay.
in the mind and intellectual and like thinking and all of that stuff. And moving into Cancer is actually more compatible with you as a Taurus. And I can see it being more family focused, nurturing focused. I wouldn't be surprised if like some of those themes like start coming into your life in a more real way once
Okay.
it changes signs.
And when is it going to change?
Um, it's about a year. I can find out exactly.
Okay. You don't have to find out exactly, but a year, roughly.
Yeah, it'll change signs in November.
Hmm. Good old November, always coming through.
Yeah. yeah, but that's like something that I think will actually be good energy for you because you do have all that earth and water in your chart. You have a bunch of fire too, but and also so your progressed moon's actually been in Cancer, so it's probably been a
Okay.
bit more emotional over the past 2.5 years or so.
Yeah, you think?
Yeah, I know that you've had one or two things happen, but it's gonna go in about a month and a half into Leo, which is kind of like, and the nice thing is your career line is in Leo, so I feel like you've also been focused in ninth houses of learning, of having to learn a lot over the past couple of years, and you're gonna be able to apply that more in a career sense. And also Leo energy is like kind of more fun.
So I'm gonna lighten up a little bit.
Yeah, you might lighten up a little bit. I feel like I like when my progressed moon, I also have a water moon like you, my moon's in Scorpio. So it's even crazier than having a Pisces moon basically. But but like I love when it's in like a fire sign because I'm like, oh, this is like more energetic and being able to have like a bit more fun, and that could be nice for you as well. Kind of a bit of a relief.
Well, I'll take a relief right now in any form.
So I think that'll be really nice for you. Another major thing that you're going through right now, you've been going through a lot, but so the nodes switch signs and they move counterclockwise, so it's opposite the rest of astrology, and that's kind of what I was talking about, what you came in with and where you're going. They change signs every year and a half or so, so it's been moving through your first house, the south node, which can be a bit more depleting energy and kind of having to let go parts of yourself. And it's almost exact on your ascendant right now, so you're kind of in the height of that. But it does change signs in
So like
July.
what would be an example of that? Like I'm like I don't know, like past sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, an example could just be like being, well, less focused on yourself and having to be more focused on things like relationships, or
Okay.
things like and this isn't only romantic relationships, it could be business relationships, it could also be just being exhausted, because basically what
I
the
feel like
south
I've been exhausted the last 2.5 years at least.
yeah, I mean, it's it should be a little bit more of a relief once it changes signs, because the first house is you know very important. The first, fourth, seventh, and 10th houses, you tend to feel things the most, just the way your
Okay.
charts. And the first house is your body and you. The fourth house is like home and family. Seventh is relationships, and 10th house is career. So in other houses, it tends to not it tends to not be as obvious some of the what's happening, but and you're also kind of in you've been in a period which is called your nodal return. So the nodes returned to the signs that they were in when you were born in the same places. So it was at
Oh.
18. It's already moved past that, but and it tends to be kind of like karmic. So like there's a lot of like soul growth that goes into that, and it tends not to be the easiest period of your life. It tends to be kind of a challenging period. everyone goes through it at about your age. So it's like, it's not something that people could avoid, or it's not,
Right.
only for you, but you're almost done with that phase anyway. Because in July it changes, and it's not going to be going back to that exact same spot for 18 years. So,
Okay.
when things are 18 years away, you don't need to worry about that.
Right. I don't even worry about things that are 18 hours away these days. So
I know, right? I feel the same way.
So when that July change comes, like what types of things should change?
Just like some of the themes in your life are going to switch a little bit. So it's
Okay.
going to be more focused on actually like health and mental health with the signs that they're going into. The North Node's going to go into the 6th, and the South Node's going to go into the 12th. So there might be some themes of things you have to let go of more mentally, or things that you don't see coming that are more unexpected because you kind of can't see the 12th house coming. It's like, this is like the horizon line, and this is what happened like right before you're born, basically, would be that house. So it's kind of like things you can't see, but it it should be easier than having it in your first house. And it's also not your nodal return anymore. So it's not
And what
necessarily
does that mean? The nodal return?
it, basically being in the same place it was when
Okay,
you were
where you
born.
were
So
born.
that's why
Okay.
it affects you a lot, because it's like, are you doing what you're here to do? Do we need to change things up so that you're on the right path? It's like it's like karmic, but it's also like soul growth. It's
Yeah.
like not easy really for anyone, but it's something everyone goes through. Is every 18 years you kind of have to re-examine those things. So let's
Interesting.
see.
It's so weird, the timing of all of this.
Oh, so the other thing I wanted to point out to you, and you do still have 3 years left of this, but I think the height of it is done. You've had Uranus moving through your 7th house, and what that means is Uranus is basically like expect the unexpected. So it's hard to make predictions, but what you see a lot with that is people getting divorced with so like, for some reason, as I told you, everyone I've been talking to at least is Scorpio rising, and they've all basically gotten divorced or ended relationships. Of course, this doesn't happen to everyone. So like, if any Scorpio risings that are getting freaked out, like, it could be something else that's related to your relationship that you don't see coming. There's plenty of things it could be, but it's not shocking to, well, you found a relationship basically out of thin air with Danielle going on a show that's like a very sudden, unexpected way to get into a relationship. So also having it end is also, not surprising for Scorpio risings. And yeah, as I said, like, you are one of many people I know who's had, the other ones haven't had the love is blind element attached to it, but
like random ways of meeting and stuff like that.
Random ways of meeting or random ways of ending the relationship. Like, I have a client who who's a therapist actually, and during the pandemic, her soon to be ex-husband just started, he never drank, and he started drinking heavily, and like then suddenly had an affair, and like she had to end the marriage and all of this. But it was like all stuff kind of out of nowhere, because he wasn't.
Well, the whole pandemic, I think, thrusted everyone into this heightened state of anxiety and unknown. So,
oh, totally, yeah. But in her case, you could see that it had to do with her relationship in some way, and her partner.
That's too bad.
Yeah, and I have another client actually who is planning on having a baby on her own because she was in a 10-year relationship. She's also a Scorpio rising, and she's 39, and he basically decided that he didn't want to have kids after 10 years, her partner. So now she's going to have a kid on her own. So, there's like a lot of, I just happen to hear these stories all the time, that there's a lot of poor, Scorpio risings that have been dealing with this, and also Cancer risings have as well. But but we have 3 more years of it in Taurus. It's like a 7 to 8 year transit, so it's a
Okay.
long period of time. But you know, you can also have people still come in unexpectedly. It doesn't mean that like you won't find someone good over the next 3 years. It's just, you
I
know,
know I'm like trying to toe the line of optimism and being terrified.
I know it's yeah, that's part of astrology, but I mean, for you with Uranus, it is approaching. Well, it's just been on your North Node too, so you're definitely feeling that like karmic energy almost. Because it was 18 degrees, your North Node's 18 degrees. It'll be going back there too, so you're gonna still feel some of that. But it's approaching your sun. So I think that you're also gonna just be changing a lot about yourself, basically, as well over the next couple of years. So like you're not you're certainly not done evolving as you know, a person and where you're going, and you know, there's more
God,
work
I
to be
hope not.
done. Yeah, exactly. But you know, there'll be parts about you that will definitely change and transform over, you know, the next couple years that hopefully will be, you know, for the best. And
Right.
where you need to go. So these things, like the whole thing about change is it's what people don't realize is that it's not usually fun or pretty. Most people are forced into it, especially people who are Tauruses and have a lot of like
And
energy
don't
of
like
not
it.
liking
Yeah.
change. Yeah. So and that's why it's been like especially uncomfortable for Uranus being there, because it's like changing what doesn't want to be changed
Right.
basically for everyone.
Right.
And this happens to everyone in like some part of their chart. It's hitting your chart more strongly than the average person based on where it is and you being a Taurus and things like that. But which by the way, Lana Del Rey is also a Scorpio rising, and she has the nodes in the same place as you. So I
Oh,
noticed
really?
that
I
as
love
well.
her.
I love her too. That's why I was like, oh, her chart is somewhat similar. She's a Cancer, but to Nick's, but yeah, so I think she's probably been going through similar themes as far as relationships are concerned as well. If I
Maybe
were
I
to,
should reach out to her and see if we can commiserate together.
well, if you get in touch with her, you'll have to let me know.
Well,
But I know she's a huge Bachelor fan. I don't know if she watches Love Is Blind or not, but
everybody watches Love is Blind, I feel
that's
like.
true. It's way more popular than like any other show right now.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I can't remember who told me this, but it gets more views than The Bachelor gets ratings or something. Someone said something like that
Oh, it
recently.
definitely is like far outseeds The Bachelor at this point. It I think it's like one of the top shows, if not the top, on Netflix, and Netflix is international,
Yeah.
and so it's a big deal. Other things I noticed, I looked at your like what was happening for you this upcoming year. I didn't look at every detail, but you're definitely going to have themes around creativity and love and romance for this upcoming year too. So I think that could actually and as Saturn approaches your moon, because Saturn's currently in your fifth house, or you know, there might be some things to go through emotionally. But I think it's overall going to be a good period for you as far as having a little bit more fun or romance in your life versus, you know, having to recover from basically Love Is Blind and the aftermath of all of that, and
Yeah.
your life changing so dramatically in general several times. But
That's very true. I mean, it has been just, I just only can describe it as chaos. It's been chaos for 2.5 years.
it's crazy. I'm sorry. It's like so.
It's just funny to hear, like, that's the season you're in.
Yeah, it kind of has been the season you're in. It is gonna like calm down though. Like, I mean, this probably has been like the most crazy period of your life if I were to.
Absolutely. That's,
Yeah, and hopefully it won't get quite that bad again.
God, I hope not.
Pluto, which you see down here, moves very, very slowly. it has been in Capricorn, which is your third house of having to transform kind of like communication, and it could also be siblings and short distance travel, but it's been there since 2008. It's in Aquarius right now. It's going back into Capricorn, and then it's going back into Aquarius, and it's going back into Capricorn, and then it'll stay in Aquarius in November of 2024. I have a very, very Capricorn heavy chart, so I like track this very closely. Yeah, so basically, like, Pluto destroys and transforms whatever it touches. It probably hasn't been that bad in your third house because you have Neptune there, but that's not as crazy as it would be in hitting other points of your chart. With
Gotcha.
it going into your fourth house, it's gonna change and transform probably some stuff around family and living situation. It moves very slowly, so it's a very slow change. But I can see you moving in maybe like 3 to 4 years.
Well, it might be 3 to 4 months if I don't get a new job soon.
Yeah, well, I feel like you're gonna figure out that piece, but and not have to move. Or it might even be like 5 years. So you might just be like getting a house or something in 5 years, or getting something that's bigger.
I was going to ask, does that mean like a house, or does that mean like just up and moving somewhere completely different, or could it be all?
It could be all. It could, it's hit my IC and I didn't move during it, but I had stuff related to just family disruptions instead. And it also opposes your career line, so it could be also career disruptions, but you still are several years out from that. So I wouldn't worry about it, but you will start getting, more themes around home and family and changes in that area of your life as it's more steadily in Aquarius, which we still have some more time. But I just had it through my fourth house for 15 years. So, it's not that bad. But there could be just things happening as far as like relatives, or as far as, home, and but it's a 20-year cycle, so it moves super, super slow. So it's not like it's just going to be there forever, but also the events tend to be kind of slow with that as well. So it's not as sudden like Uranus with, the relationship stuff. That's like really quick. This is a lot slower moving. So, sometimes you can see things coming quicker. Other things in here, Jupiter's been in your sixth house, which, by the way, your sixth house is of like day-to-day routine, and also like pets and health and wellness, your health, your vitality. First house has to do with that, but also your sixth house. And you have an emphasis in your sixth house as far as having Venus there and Mercury there, so you probably tend to react quickly, you think quickly. Things like that, even though, you do overthink, but you might say things quicker at times. And I think you've said that you slowed that down over the years.
Yeah, I used to be very, very reactive, very quick-witted, sting people with my words very quickly. Still happens sometimes, but I try. You know what I noticed that happens a lot now? It happens in social media comments.
Oh, really?
I will just snark back to someone, and I'm just like, well, I already typed it.
Oh, I think a lot of people have that problem. But yeah.
It's just a weird way that it's manifested itself and found a way back into my reactiveness.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's always like you're always going to have Mercury in Aries, so it's always going to be kind of quick. It also could be fun and quick-witted and stuff like that. But all this emphasis in your sixth house does indicate that, things related to focusing on your health and that area of your life and also routine is very, very important for you, and more than the average person. And also, it's having that health emphasis. I know that's very important for you, and, some of the career things you do. And I also just noticed within your chart in general that your mental and physical health are much more linked, I would say, than the average person. So
totally true.
So just things to be mindful of and continue to prioritize that. And you've also had, Jupiter has 1 year long cycle, which is, not as bad as 20-year long cycles. And Jupiter tends to be more positive. especially in a day chart. So it's been in your house of routine and health for basically the last year.
Okay.
But it is about to change signs into Taurus, which is your seventh house. And so I can see like good things coming in as far as meeting the right people for business or for romantic relationships and things like that. And I think it'll be a nice like relief after the last couple of years of like things that more positive coming in that spot. And also, just like meeting the right people and being like, oh, this deal's gonna work versus like almost feeling stuck where you've been at.
That's a good thing too, because I have felt very stuck. And that was the weird thing about the show is I felt like I got thrusted into a group of people that I naturally wouldn't be in a group with. And it just kind of,
Right.
yeah. And it wasn't like my circle. And so it's just been very tumultuous, I guess, or uneven. Like uneven is the best way I think I can put it.
Oh yeah, no, I'm sure it's interesting doing things like that where you meet people you'd never meet otherwise, but it's
Mm-hmm.
always like, are these people worth keeping around or
Exactly. Well, that's what, I've recently started saying, I shouldn't say I always said, but when you do the work, like you do start to shed the people that aren't meant for you. You've just got to pay attention and let it happen and don't force it.
I completely agree. I always tell people to get rid of people in my life. I like to, I'm like, not everyone's meant to be there for your entire life. Like sometimes you have to, let things go to bring new things in. And yeah, and I feel like that's also kind of what you've been in a period of is just having to let things go so that you could make space for the new stuff. And I always wish that didn't have to happen, that you could just kind of like bring new things in and then get rid of things. And I'm I'm continuously forced to recognize that that's not the way it works, and you just have to suck it up and do
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I think that's fair. It makes sense that we wouldn't think that way.
Yeah, exactly. Do you have any questions on this? Any thoughts?
I mean, it's spot on in so many ways, just with the transitions of everything in the last couple of years. But even thinking about, um, you know, my home life, my relationships with people, it's spot on. It just feels spot on.
Awesome. I am so glad. And yeah, I hope a lot of people are listening to this just because you're such a nice, good guy. And I feel like when you're watching TV, not that you came across badly on TV by any means, but you just don't get to know someone really when you're seeing
I
one
know.
element of their life in a weird circumstance.
Well, yeah, and you get to see. I think it was like an hour and 15 minutes or so, hour and 14 minutes. It's you, yeah. People don't know. They think they
Yeah.
do.
Oh, yeah. Well, people always think that they know everything. That's the problem. Of people could take a step back and be like, "Oh, I actually don't know about that topic. Like, maybe let's research." Like, we'd probably like
Right.
solve all problems. So,
I
I don't
know.
know.
You would think, right?
Yeah, totally.
So, what do you think? Was there anything here that was surprising? Because you seemed pretty not surprised by anything based on what you know. Obviously, we don't know each other super well yet, but was there anything that was surprising?
Well, stuff I noticed that I didn't necessarily know is just how creative you are. Naturally. And I don't know if that's something that you would necessarily just know from, say, like watching Love is Blind or just seeing things online. And I do feel like that's gonna be a big part of your career moving forward as well, as just kind of like embracing some of those more creative elements. It's it's the counseling elements and everything else that you're working on, but it's also like I would definitely continue to write and pursue anything like creatively or artistically. You're also very well balanced as far as masculine and feminine energy, which is nice. Not everyone, which for people that don't know, it doesn't mean that you're feminine. It means that you're well balanced for those different
Right.
parts of yourself. Which I found to be really nice. And just the stubborn factor is, yeah, I definitely saw that you're stubborn and very, fixed in your ways and kind of have to be forced, which you have been clearly by the universe, to move and make a change and things like that. But nothing shocked me.
When I get the most stubborn is when I know I'm doing the right thing and I'm getting resistance. That's when I like dig my feet in and I get louder and I get stronger and I get, more passionate. And that's like really when the stubborn comes in those scenarios. But I am fixed in my ways.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Oh, another thing that, and feel free to cut this out if you don't want this in here, that I noticed is there is this like factor within relationships of finances, joint finances in your life and just in general being an issue. So my recommendation for that, of that being, because that's the 8th house Mars, which is, the most difficult planet in your chart. So my recommendation for that would be like, just like literally whenever you're with someone next where you're sharing finances, is like have everything on paper and agree to everything and just make sure that that's all spelled out even more than the average person.
Okay. It's funny because I do. I am very like calculated in my money. I have a budget. I track every single thing I spend and under categories, and that's how I manage my money. And it's, so it is hard to imagine sharing finances in general.
Oh yeah, yeah, and that could be. It just happens to be because like the 2nd house is your finances, and the 8th house is like, either with someone else,
gotcha.
or your. It could also be real estate. It could be taxes, things
Gotcha.
like that, and just having it opposite, an erotic planet like Uranus, Mars, and then and also having your moon in aspect to that, so I feel like it would affect you emotionally as well. I would just take more precautions with things that are joint than the average person.
That's good feedback.
Yeah. But otherwise, I mean, I like your chart. I actually had a long-term client who was also a Taurus with a Pisces moon, so I guess I'm attracted to that energy. It's very compatible with my chart too, so it makes sense. Like you tend to draw on people that like you could have some kind of connection with your charts. Like it's not usually someone that you can't relate to at all. Even like I did look up Danielle's birthday. I don't know her full chart or anything, but her being a Scorpio made sense to me too. Like, because that's opposite side of Taurus, which could be a really amazing match or could also be a disaster. So it just kind of depends on.
Right.
But there's definitely that connection there. So it does make sense that you were attracted to her and, had that connection. Easily,
like
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Taurus and Scorpios are like drawn to each other. So
yeah, I've dated a number of Scorpios too before that, so it's a thing.
Oh yeah, and you probably love that they're like Scorpios tend to be more deep just as a sign than average person.
Yeah, I think that's fair because I like that. I like someone who has depth. I mean, I don't like I don't like small talk. So that makes sense.
Oh yeah, no, totally. Oh, and for water moons, and so that people know this, like I actually would go for your moon sign over your sun sign when looking for someone, and then after that, look at like compatible Mercury's, Venus and Mars, but moon's definitely the most because it's emotional compatibility. So you do well with like a water moon or an earth moon.
Or falling in love through a wall.
Yeah, well, yeah, but just in general, like the moon sign, I would definitely take a look at with people too. Not that you should ever like. I just even think knowing the moon sign's helpful with people, so you can know what they need emotionally.
Right. Well, and I think that's also just one of the hardest things in a relationship is how to support each other emotionally when you need that support, especially if you don't communicate well.
Oh yeah, well, absolutely. And of course communication is super important as well, but I even look up like clients with their moon signs so I can know like, oh, this person needs to be praised a lot. And if I'm remembering correctly, I think Danielle has a Leo moon. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But that would mean that she would need a lot of like validation basically more than the average person, and more praise, and like there's something wrong with that. I'm not like, Leo moons, I just like looking up stuff like that. So if she was my client, I would say something like, oh, I need to make sure that I'm telling her how well she's doing, and like things like that. Whereas you, I would more be like, oh, I need to make sure that he's doing okay, emotionally. Is he getting worn out? Is he
That's so true.
making
I'm
sure
so
he's
prone to
being,
burnout. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, things like that. It just, people are very different from each other as far as these things go. So I
Yeah.
like using this stuff as a way to just understand people more and get ahead, basically.
No, I think that's smart. I mean, I haven't done that from an in-depth astrology perspective, but I think just getting to know like love languages and how they give, how they receive, having those conversations and those check-ins, I think is important. But this obviously is the same type of thing. Like it's personality type, it's the way that you,
Yeah, it's really
emotionally.
similar. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
similar to Myers-Briggs. I think it's based on some astrology. Um, Obviously,
I
astrological
love
charts.
Myers-Briggs was a huge, when I finally took that in my early 20s, that was like a huge thing for me to understand a lot about myself and why I was feeling the way I was feeling, and why I was like that fact that being introverted is totally okay. It doesn't make you a weirdo to, want to stay home instead of go out, or to spend time with your thoughts or whatever that is. So I think that plays a role too.
Oh, absolutely. Do you know what your type is?
Yeah, and I test frequently with it, and I'm always the same. It's an INFJ.
Oh, me too. I used to get INFP, and then I completely stopped getting INFP, and I'm just INFJ. So,
It's interesting. People do change. People do change.
well, I think I initially took it like in college, and I feel like that's not like the necessary best time to like take a test.
Right.
But yeah, I'm always like INF for sure. But I definitely see the J more than the P at this point in my life anyway.
I mean,
But
that makes sense. It's kind of like I don't want to say it's a maturity thing, but it's like a evolutionary thing, I would say, right?
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I was thinking you were an INFJ and figured you would know, but
No
yeah.
one ever believes me when I say that, because people can't understand the introverted part.
That's funny because you do come across introvert. Like, it's not that you come across like unable to talk to people or quiet, but you like, I can see that you're someone with an inner world that like needs to recharge and like
Totally.
do stuff themselves. So
Yeah. The funny thing is introverts recognize introverts. It's extroverts that can't recognize introverts unless they give those signs of, social awkwardness, which could also be an extrovert, or struggling. You're not even, but like at a party, being, having a small conversation in the corner, stuff like that. But introverts recognize introverts.
oh, totally. I think like 90% of my friends are introverts too, even ones that go out all the time. I think introverts are attracted to introverts as far as
Yeah.
like lifestyle, etc. But nothing against extroverts. I just can't imagine getting energy from people, but good for them.
Would you ever see that meme where it's like it's something about every extrovert, like introverts find friends when extroverts like find them and then bring them basically like into a social situation. That's the only time like introverts get social.
Yeah, probably true. I just need like motivation to get social. Like, oh, if I'm going to a concert that I'm excited for, that's like worth it. But then even like I'm only talking to the people I'm going with, and my best friend and I like to her husband's super extroverted, and he makes friends with like everyone around us at everything we do, and neither of us ever have that desire. So probably good
Well,
though.
actually, I find myself like from a relationship perspective very attracted to extroverts because I like the balance. And when I have dated introverts, it's not balanced.
Interesting. Yeah, I have friends that have like argued like, oh no, you're better to do the opposite, and I'm like, I don't know if I can handle an extrovert.
Right.
I don't. Yeah.
Maybe you need
Um.
like a 60-40 or something.
Yeah, well balanced is fine. I just, I like to have chill time. If I worked less, I probably would. Maybe I'd have more energy. Who knows? But
I think we all would.
Yeah.
Was there anything else about the birth chart?
No, I mean, I think that's good for right now. Hopefully you
Yeah.
have some takeaways.
This was really interesting. I appreciate you walking me through this because, I have friends that are into it and they'll like drop something. Oh, well, that's because you're in like Mercury's in retrograde and you're in this and that. And I'm just like, I don't follow any of that. And they don't explain it like you did. So I appreciate the thorough walkthrough.
Oh yeah, yeah, of course. And I find this helpful to use as a part of my business with people, just working with
Yeah.
people to really understand who they are and what they're here to do. And I think that's something unique about me as a person in the publicity, entertainment management, brand
Yeah.
strategy world. But
No, I think it is too. It's like a personality test. You got to understand who you're working with, what they're supposed to be doing and help guide them in that direction.
oh yeah, totally. And
Yeah.
also just trying to make sure that someone's not just completely lost and that they just need to kind of get back to themselves and like figure that out before they because as you know, like suddenly being catapulted into people knowing who you are is extremely not difficult. So
You
people
can't
need to have
prepare
some
for it.
grounded. Yeah, you can't
Yeah.
prepare for it. And it is helpful when have some grounding of like what period of life you're in and
Yeah.
some support around it so that you kind of know.
I think it almost forces you to find out who you are as a person because you are in the public eye and there's a lot of different types of pressures for that. And you have to have your core values. Like you have to understand who you are and what you stand for, or you will get pulled in 100 different directions. You'll be doing things you never thought you'd do or saying things you never thought you'd say.
Absolutely. And yeah, that's my issue with you know allowing people to become famous as children too, because they can't
Totally.
have any of that because you don't know who you are when you're 14.
Yeah, you have no idea who you are. It took me like in my 30s to figure it out.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, exactly. I don't even think you don't it should be a gradual process, but sometimes people have points where they're forced to learn. Um
Exactly. All right. Yeah, this was great. Thank you so much, Sarah, for taking the time to walk me through my birth chart. Where can people find you?
yeah, so if you're someone looking for publicity, if you're in reality TV, if you're looking for guidance, you're looking for someone to have your back, you're looking for brand strategy or entertainment management, my website is soulevolutionmedia.com. And my name is Sara Fruman. So I'm on that on socials in some variation of that as SARA. And Instagram is underscore FRUMAN. But yeah, I do astrology readings as well on occasion. So you can also just fill out my form field or message me if you're interested in that. Um, but yeah, thank you so much,
Awesome.
Nick, for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was great. Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of Eyes Wide Open. If you enjoy the show, the best way to support us is by sharing or dropping a review. For more information and content, check out engagewithnick.com or find me on Instagram at nthompson513. Don't go through life blind. Do the work so you can show up in the world with your eyes wide open.